Hi, today I want to cover a paper that came out in late 2018. It was about November. And the day after it was released, it was talked about on the Today Show. It was introduced by Dr. Oz as a new study showing that low carbohydrate diet helps with weight loss maintenance. I want to talk about this because that's really all that was said. There wasn't a lot of information about it out there. We didn't talk about the amount of carbohydrates. So this is really important, especially with the fact that a lot of people are on or are considering going on a ketogenic diet, which is very, very low at 5%. And that's not what this is. So what this study is first of all, it is funded by the Nutritional Science Initiative, which is funding just to do nutrition research. So this is not funded by a company or a corporation that are looking for specific results. And so there's really no problem with the funding here at all. So what they did is they started with obese patients that were greater than 25 BMI, less than 350 pounds or less than 160 kilograms. And they put them on a specific diet, which is a diet that is by the World Health Organization across all countries considered a good diet. And that's 45% carbs and 25% protein, 30% fat. So that is traditionally what is considered across the world, World Health Organization, a good diet. They were put on that until they lost a certain amount of weight. And then they were screened, and ones who could go into the second set part of this, which is looking at different amounts of carbohydrates and how they can maintain their weight, they were screened and they were randomly put into one of three groups. That's important that it was randomized and that they weren't specifically handpicked to go into different groups. So they were randomly put into one of three groups. Group one was a high carbohydrate diet at 60%. Group two was a moderate carbohydrate diet, and that was 40%, which is very close to what is considered the correct percent for the functioning of the human body. And then the last group was put on a low carbohydrate diet, and that was a 20% carbohydrate diet. So note that the low carbohydrate is 20%. And they put them on this diet for 20 weeks. And what they found is that there is more energy expenditure at lower carbohydrates. What that means is your body is expending more energy, and the weight loss maintenance was much easier. And what they found was for every 10% of the carbohydrates that dropped, there was a 50 to 70 calorie or kilocalorie increase in energy expenditure. So at 60%, if you went from 60 to 40%, that's about 100 to 140 calories more that were being spent by the people on the 40% diet. So they increased their energy expenditure. At 20%, from 60% to 20%, that was 200 to 280 calories more that they were expending than their 60% group, and 100 to 140 more than the 40% group. So what they found is at the 20% carbohydrate level that they could expend more energy, and it was easier to maintain their weight. And that was the main outcome of this. So it's not only maintaining weight, but the energy expenditure. So they were really looking at how much energy they were expending, and a low carbohydrate diet caused them to expend more energy. Now, there are obviously with every study some negatives. And the big negative with this one is it may not be easy to follow a 20% diet, 20% carbohydrate diet, especially with the ease and ability of getting processed foods that have a bunch of different added sugars. So it may not be feasible to stay at 20%. It also might not be financially feasible for a lot of people to stay at that percentage, since that means a lot of fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, very good lean meats. So it may be prohibitive long-term. It may be financially prohibitive long-term as well. So that's a couple of the negatives that were with this. One of the big positives that came out of this is other studies that have looked at low carbohydrates in this form, so 20% or 40%, looking at moderate or low carbohydrates, and have compared them, have only done it for 2 weeks in other studies. This study did it for 20 weeks. So that is a great positive to this study, that it shows that that is really a long term. This is a 5-month thing that they did, and showed that that energy expenditure stayed higher, that weight loss maintenance was easier. And what they found is up to 10 weeks, we did see a change, and then it leveled off between 10 and 20 weeks, and everyone stayed at that amount of kilocalorie expenditure and that weight loss maintenance. So once you get to 10 weeks, that weight loss maintenance stays for the next 10 weeks, which means if you continue on with this, it's also going to continue to stay on. All right, that is my covering of this study that was called The Effects of a Low Carbohydrate Diet on Energy Expenditure During Weight Loss Maintenance. This was a randomized trial by Ebbeling and al. And this was in the BMJ journal in 2018 in November. Thank you so much. I'll cover another one for you very soon.